Hey Virgo, welcome to Black Star Tarot. This is your general or spiritual reading for the month of June. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see what energies we have for you guys coming up in your near future. All right, we have Treasure Island. Goody now. Ooh, I see things glittery. I see gold. I see, prosperity, abundance. I see a number 9 too. So something's wrapping up. For me, 9s represent cycles coming to a close, completions, and I feel at the end of this rainbow, there will be something there that you will like and enjoy, and that will give you a new perspective on life. Like, I like 9s because I kind of feel like when you see them, it's kind of like say in your environment, like if you see 999 or whatever, it's kind of just like, okay, whatever I'm going through is on its way out. Okay. I feel like at this point, it's attracting things to you that, are going to make things better or change your situation. Yeah, that's how I feel. So Treasure Island, this card, speaks about the law of attraction, bringing your dreams into fruition, what results from like positive thinking. It talks about abundance, appearing out of nowhere, right? Things happening out of nowhere too. That's another thing that 9s represent. It's kind of like things happening out of nowhere, but for your good, for your better, for good, right? For good. This card talks about financial gains, right? It's treasure. Things are going to matter to you, that are going to prosper you, that's going to be good for you. Okay, so let's see what the book has to say. Number 9, Treasure Island. It says, you've worked hard and acted upon your unwavering belief in abundance. Ooh. And suddenly, in the midst of it all, you hit the jackpot. Ooh. You have uncovered the map to a buried treasure and tapped the unlimited potential within you. Man, I like this kind of energy. It's just so magical, right? All right. You must hone now. Is your ability. Am I reading that what? Oh, no. What you must hone now is your ability to recognize when X marks the spot. Because some of these golden opportunities may be obvious, but others may not be so readily apparent. Trust your intuition to light your way now as you enter this truly prosperous phase, when all the long, hard work navigating your inner life is now paying off externally. In all aspects of your life, at this time, you have good fortune. Don't forget to enjoy it and share it with others, as Treasure Island shared multiplies like magic. So I did a horrible job reading it. However, I think you were able to understand the gist of it all, that you have some good fortune heading your way. And for some of you, this is you manifesting this into your life, which means that not only did you imagine it, you felt it inside and you took action towards what it is that you wanted. Okay, you have good fortune headed in according to the cards, and so I would take full opportunity of this. I would maybe play a little lotto here and there, follow like those, how you see, like, for me, like if I see 777, or real story, I was driving home from work one day, and I'm just gonna make up some numbers. I saw like 369 on somebody's license plate. Then I looked over on the highway and somebody else had 369. And then I looked over and it was like 3 cars right next to each other. They all had 369. And then no shit, right? There was this tow truck and it had like these flashing lights going across the top of it. And the tow truck's license plate said 369. It didn't say 369. It said these other numbers. I'm just trying to use those numbers. And so, Lord and behold, right? I saw that many times with the truck with the flashing lights, and Lord and behold, I didn't even pay it any attention other than the fact that, damn, that number's there 1,000 times. And I said to myself, you know what, you probably should play the lottery. And I said, you know what, when I get home, I'm going to play that number. I didn't. And guess what? It came out the next day. I was pissed. However, so pay attention to, this time. Okay. So again, you have, probably an area in your life that is a chapter that is closing, right? So if you've been going through some financial hardships, if things have just been like paycheck to paycheck, or you feel like you've just been stuck, you know, in a particular place and you haven't been gaining, but yet you haven't been losing. I feel like that chapter is coming to an end, and you have this new abundant energy coming in, a time where it may give you a little bit of financial independence, some freedom, whatever this is some type of award, for the universe. And I feel that although you should be selfish at this time, maybe, you can give a little, to others, but I feel like this is definitely some type of achievement, a blessing, so to speak, some good luck. Maybe you'll find something that unclaimed, right, that doesn't belong to anybody else. I don't know. The universe is crazy, so you never know how it brings these things in. Just be on the lookout, right? That's what you want to be this month. You want to be on the lookout, okay? Be on the lookout for opportunities, for blessings, for treasures. Hell, you may find a diamond on the side of the road or on the ground. I don't know. Okay, you never know. Okay, what do we have here that flew out? We have the Emperor. It says organization and logic, structure, discipline, and leadership. So I think that this is your doing, right? The Emperor is usually in charge. Okay, so if you were dealing with a person, say if this was like, something coming in business wise, they could be an entrepreneur, they could be an Aries, a Capricorn. But I feel like the reason why you're in this energy, like the card said, like the book said, was because of your doing, like your self-mastery, because that's what the Emperor is. He's a master. He has like all the discipline, the knowledge, the expertise, the structure, the commitment, the time, all of those things. So I feel like, this blessing, whatever you've manifested, is because of your discipline. Okay, and this card is just clarifying that. So let's see what else. I did kind of feel that. I should have said that. Relationship. I do feel like maybe like you guys could be teaming up, with someone else here. Maybe this is love, because, treasures come all kinds of ways. It doesn't always have to be money. It could be a friend, a friendship, it doesn't matter. But whatever it is, it's a new beginning. This Fool wanted to come out in reverse. I'm not really big on reversals. I took this Five of Cups in reverse because it's the Five of Cups, right? We don't want the Five of Cups to be ever in the upright. But if it does, it does. But in this particular situation, it came out in reverse, so I'm going to leave it in reverse. The Fool kind of came out in reverse too, but I mean, yeah, no. I'm going to keep it upright because I feel that this is going to be so much fun for you. I feel like this is going to be something that you're going to enjoy after maybe this Five of Cup energy. Maybe you've had a lot of changes recently. Maybe you I don't know. There's just a card of like grief, sorrow, maybe even like feeling unfulfilled, right? Even with this Five of Pentacles, right? You could have been down on your luck when it comes to like relationships, partnerships, and even just trusting people, right? Yeah. With the Two of Cups, I just feel like maybe you've had some difficulties in that area. Before I started to pull the cards, like relationship came to mind. I just didn't speak it. For some of you, this treasure may just be that, you finally, meeting that one, or maybe someone that you can, build a friendship with, a relationship with, maybe not being so alone, right? I feel like a lot of you could be coming out of this. So there doesn't have to be money, doesn't have to be, anything tangible, but it definitely could be, that type of treasure where it's like, whatever your heart desires, right? If you've been manifesting love, then here it is, okay? After a period of not being able to really find like that union, right? That Two of Cups, right? Really kind of like you've been, dating a bunch of frogs, right? And now finally, you've met somebody that you have something in common with. Maybe you've manifested just that. So the Fool upright, of course, speaks of, new adventures, new beginnings, surrendering, taking that leap of faith. In reverse, it can kind of go into that dark mode, things like mania, taking too many risks, intoxication, things of that nature. And maybe that's where some of you may have been at some point in time, not really willing to take the risk in relationships, not really willing to risk, your financial, situation, not wanting to switch that job, just kind of staying put, it can definitely represent that. But I feel like now, no, not so much. You're kind of getting out there and exploring a little bit, and then the universe is bringing you in, so much more than I think that you may have even thought of. Okay. So relationship wise, let's just say that this is a person that is being brought into your life. The Emperor represents like Aries and Capricorn, Virgo. The Fool can pretty much be any signs, all signs to me. Some will say Aquarius and I don't know what else, but to me it represents all signs, so don't get me lying. All right, the Moon could be Pisces. Some people say Cancer, but for me it's Pisces. Temperance could be a Sagittarius. So if this is a relationship, it could be any of those signs coming in. However, it can be anybody. So I don't feel like I don't know, relationship wise, I feel like you've been down on your luck when it comes to that. Not really trusting, not really opening up or giving yourself, because I feel like you've been hurt in the past, particularly with Temperance here. If this is finances, same thing. I feel like you just kind of been staying stuck, not really expanding or really taking, too many risks because, you just didn't want to, rock the boat, too much. Okay. Temperance shows up when, we kind of need to balance that out. You just can't stay stuck. You got to get out there and take some risks sometimes. You got to get out there and show yourself, so Temperance is going to come in and be like, look, I know you're used to hiding. I know you don't really want to get out there and date. You're very cautious, with, who you let into your space, and which you should be. But sometimes we could be, we can take things to the extremes, right? Yeah, I'm not going to spend a single dime. Therefore, you never, treat yourself. And now you feel like, you're in that lack mindset, right? So Temperance will come in and say, hey, let me show you, there's something out here for you. That it's okay, to enjoy some treasures in life, okay? If this is a relationship, same thing. You could be really cautious about, who you bring into your energy, really not wanting to be hurt, right? This 5 of Cups. Not wanting to, just be, financially, unstable. So you just stay stuck, and, that's not a good place to be either. Yes, you're not, like I said, rocking the boat too much. You're not gonna, if you're being cautious with your money, you won't find yourself in debt. If you're being cautious about your relationships, you won't find yourself hurt. But then at the same time, you kind of stay stuck, right? Because you're not opening yourself up to new, possibilities or opportunities. And so, the universe is like, look, need not be afraid, little one. I'm going to help you. Okay. So, I do feel that there has been some Virgos here that, are, kind of, taking charge now, and really thinking about, the future, so to speak, because that's what the Emperor does. And that's why I'm saying this. I just feel like, you've been in that structure mode. You've been responsible. You've done everything by the book, as they say. You haven't hurt anybody. You're a good person. You work hard. You want the world to be perfect. I get it. Like, I see that here, right? And some of you just could be lacking that commitment, that love, that connection. And I feel like, there is definitely, someone out there for you, someone that you can really, connect with, after a time, of just being, to yourself, right? Kind of just being home alone, just feeling like, man, no one loves me. I'm just left out in the cold. I'm just this poor, desolate, person that doesn't deserve love. Nobody loves me. I kind of feel like for some of you, not all of you, but, to each his own. But I just feel like right now, at least in the energy that you're stepping into, it's just going to be a little different, right? I feel like you're going to open up a little more. I feel like you're going to allow yourself to feel and experience and to think, without confusion, right? I feel like you're going to allow yourself, to dream, where you've done that, right? Because this is a card of dreaming. And then we have, the Emperor here, like really organizing the mind, really thinking about, what, I want this. Enough is enough. I want my life to be better. I want, a new start. I want to get out here and, to make a difference, in my life. And I feel like, it's arrived, right? It's arrived because the treasure island is here. Like, there's some type of chapter that you are closing up, okay, and that's no longer been serving you, and so you've just decided, you know, to make that change. There's someone out here for everybody. Please know that, right? And I feel that because you've been in the energy of this Emperor, because you've been so structured, you know, because you've been positive, you've been safe, you've been secure. I feel that, you know, there's good fortune, you know, heading into you. For a lot of you, I feel like this is definitely with your finances, but for others of you, it's a relationship. But it doesn't matter. Whatever this connection is, it's going to be for your best bet, like for your highest good, so to speak. What else am I thinking here for you guys? I don't know. I just feel like this time, you know, within this Emperor energy, you're just going to be confident. I feel like, you know, success, you know, is yours coming up this month. And I'm not just saying that, this is what I'm seeing here. I feel like right now, you know, you've hit the mark. You know, you're in a period where I think that prosperity is just going to come in. I feel like your dreams, your aspirations, you know, everything is just a little more concrete now. You know, it's a little auspicious. The energy is a little auspicious, but yet I feel like it's fortunate. Like there's fortune here. There's opportunity here, right? If there's creative projects that you're working on, I feel like now is the time to strike, you know, because it's going to be successful. Make sure you share your wealth, right, to those who, you know, may be less fortunate. You know, you're not a victim. And I'm not sure why I'm saying that, but I just feel like, you know, that's someone's mindset here, right? You're not a victim. You're coming out of this Five of Cups. That's why it's in reverse. Like healing is coming in. The Empress is here to kind of fix, you know, some areas of your consciousness or your beliefs that may have been holding you back, okay? And you're being gifted, because I feel as a whole, Virgo, you have a good heart. And that good heart, you know, they say the heart chakra, you know, that's where the riches is. That's how you get your blessings, right? When you have a good heart, right? When you have a good heart, when you stay structured, you stay organized, you stay stern, you set boundaries, you know, with others, the universe recognizes that as wisdom and strength. And then it comes in just to give you just a little something, you know, so that you know that your efforts, you know, have been recognized, okay? So that's all I have for you guys. I like your reading this month. This is good energy. Okay, let's see what little messages we have. So we have the pain you feel are messengers. This card has come out like 3 times, and so this is message, I don't know, it's a lot. Maybe this is something a lot of people are going through. And I just wanted to see this. Like it says, wake up and live. Bob Marley. This quote is by Bob Marley. It says, wake up and live. And I feel like that's what some of you are needing to do. The Hermit didn't show up. But there's like an energy of someone that's just overly cautious with everything. Like, nah, I ain't letting this person in. This guy crazy. Or, nah, I done dealt with that girl before. These chicks, man, no. You know, or I'm going to stay at this job because it's familiar to me. I just feel like, you know, you're just kind of just like, you don't want to rock the boat. But, you know, the spirit is saying, hey, that pain that you feel is messenger. So if you're feeling it is time to get up and move and, you know, start a new cycle, then yeah, it's time, right? And then, you know, spirit is saying, hey, wake up and live a little. Like do a little something with yourself, okay? You know? All right, one last message for you, Virgo. Oh, you got 2. All right. So you have talk to your guides, and you come from the stars. So you're being blessed here, all right? And if ever in doubt, talk it out, right? Talk to your spirit guides, talk to your guides, go into a little meditation, right? Silence the mind, you know, and remember, like, you know, you do come from the stars. So anything that you manifest, you know, under the right conditions will be given to you, right? It doesn't happen overnight, right? We're in a 3D plane, so sometimes our manifestations take forever and forever to come, but eventually they do get to us if we stay in that energy of the Emperor. All right, guys, this is the message I have for you. We'll see you in the next video.